Me and David in high school, in Miss Waite's class, used to, as a joke, say to Miss Waite, because we would always say, like, it's so stupid in the English language that some of these, like, words have silent letters in the beginning of them. So we'd write, like, papers and put Q's and Z's and X's before words like water and pineapple, and she'd be like, what are you doing? And we're like, oh, they're silent letters. Or, like, we put a comma where a period would be, we knew it was wrong in our minds, but we did it as, like, a joke, and it was always in, like, a manner that we thought was creative. We get points taken off of paper.
Yeah, I actually read, and I'm going to put this in the final product of my paper, but there's this guy called John Dawkins. Dawkins. He wrote a paper about how punctuation is totally destroying the concept of meaning because students are becoming so consumed with the fact that period needs to go here. And he proposes a system that basically says, okay, well, we can create a system of punctuation that works with meaning as opposed to against it.
See, like, that was me and David, we put like semicolons and commas. Like, I think in all in that one paper we had, what was it, like 2 periods, and it was a 2-page paper.
Did the paper display a meaning?
The paper displayed a meaning, it got the point across, but like, I think the rubric for the assignment was like, it was at the beginning of when we first started the class, and she was saying, she read us Dr. Seuss, and she's like, even to this day, like kids our age, there's a lot of merit behind Dr. Seuss's writing, even though it's very simplistic. And she was saying, I want you to be creative, but turn in a paper that displays, merit and has meaning to it. But she wanted us to be creative. So that's the way me and David were like, well, this is creative because we're making fun of the English language and also not following the punctuation system, but the meaning is still there. The kids in our class got it. Miss Waite even got it, but she said in her consciousness she couldn't give us a good grade on the paper and made us redo it.
So she made you redo the paper?
Yeah, she understood the paper. She understood the point that we were trying to get across, but she said that she couldn't give us a good grade on the paper because that wouldn't help us down the road.
Exactly, but that's not what you do. That's not what a writer in the world would do in the real life. A writer in the world writes down what he wants to say, sends it to his editor, who puts down the punctuation, the right punctuation. A writer in the world is somebody who is conveying meaning, starting a conversation. And so teachers aren't teaching that. They're teaching how to punctuate a sentence.
But at the same time, it doesn't matter because a writer in the world, like, yeah, sure, they might write down what they want to write, but it's not going to get published unless other people like it. So in the end, as creative as they can be, they still have to stifle their creativity to a certain level in order to do well with their writing.
Well, then again, wouldn't creativity just be subjective in that sense? What's creative to one person may not be
to another person. But unfortunately, if the majority doesn't agree with it, it won't be published.
Okay. Next question. Do you feel that the system of writing instruction that you were taught under preaches the use of creativity, but in reality, creativity cannot exist under this system?
Yes.
Okay.
They all tell you to, we already went over this, but they all tell you to be creative, and then you get penalized for your creativity. They're like, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why I'm reading this or why you bothered writing that. Like, you could write following every grammatical rule that you've learned, follow all sentence structure, everything. But if what you're saying is too creative for the teacher to comprehend, not even like to comprehend, because, like we said, creativity is really, subjective.
Relative to the situation.
Yeah, and it's relative to people's situation and to people's perception. So you could write something that, like, there's just a South Park episode about it. The kids wrote, like, the most foul book they could ever think of, and then people are like, this is about how Republicans are douchebags, and it's like, no, but this is how about liberals are douchebags, and it's just people see what they want to see in the papers. So you could be writing literally about, pooping out of your pee hole, and people are going to get political statements out of it, or, whatever their mind wants to see is what they're going to take away from it.
Okay. All right, this is the last question. Do you feel that writing is the best method to express your creativity?
Not necessarily. I mean, you have people that, for example, create clothing to express their creativity. You have people that draw to express their creativity. Like my best friend is what I would say an artist. She's an all right writer, but when it comes to her drawing, she's phenomenal at expressing her creativity. And, I think it really depends. Everybody has a different way to express their creativity, and it's not necessarily just writing.
Okay.
Just to add on to that, just that creativity is in and of itself its own language, and the way that you express it, isn't necessarily the creative aspect. It's what you think and what you do. And, if you can use the language in a creative way to express your thoughts, and that's great, but if it's a musician, an artist, a writer, those are all just tools to express your creativity. If you want to tell someone a story, you can write it down, or you could paint a picture, or you could write a song. It's just, those are just methods and channels to express the thoughts that you have. So
But yet you were forced in an English class to sit there and write a paper, even though that was not something that
yeah, for some people they may
you're not, that's not your forte.
When in reality they are. It's just they're not maybe creative at expressing their ideas.
Right.
Writing, they're maybe better.
Right, exactly.
The one thing I remember, Miss Wade always used to hate this, and we would say it just to, get on her nerves, but she hated when you said the author paints a picture. Like, I don't see, why that was such a big deal to say, but she hated it. And, people, again, like everyone's saying, people are creative in ways other than writing, like film. Barack's creative with his animations. Travis is creative with the way he fails at life, with washing the bottom of a dish the way he does, and it's a very creative waste, very creative things. A lot of the things he does, he's very creative unintentionally. Like, I put my keys in the freezer to not forget my food, and he's like, what if they get frostbite? That's a very creative question. It's not very logical, but it's creative, and he didn't write it in a paper. And if I were to write it in a paper, people would say that's a very creative character, but it's someone that actually exists.
Right.
People express their creativity in different ways, whether they know it or not. It's there.
Yeah, Matt, and what you were saying, hell, just what you were saying that putting the keys in the fridge, that's a creative way to a solution, and that you don't want to forget your food. So that he didn't write it down on a board that said remember food, and he put it down. It's a creative outlet. It's a physical way to demonstrate how to go work around a problem.
A lot of scientists are creative. Look at Einstein. Countless scientists are creative, but a lot of people wouldn't see what they do as expressive creativity.
It's Sweden with the Herzliya tunnel or whatever, trying to recreate the Big Bang.
It's just a way to look at a problem, to try to find a solution in a different way. It's the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah, that's it. The hedgerow.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add? Final thoughts?
Yeah,
You want to say anything else?
It's the interpretation of creativity is in the eyes of the beholder, not the writer. Robert Frost, the whole famous poem. I'm not trying to sound philosophical. I'm saying I remember this quote that how his famous poem was the two paths, the road less taken or something like that. And everyone always interpreted it as this philosophical thing about taking a road, not everyone takes, when, that's a creative way to look at it, when in reality he actually wrote the poem to show that sometimes there are wrong decisions people make, but that it was almost taken as a different way. So that both in the sense that it's the author of the poem did not intend for people to interpret it the way they did, so that it wasn't even in his eyes, and it became something different.
So creativity is in the eyes of the
Like that with a lot of paintings too. Sorry, not to interrupt, but when you go to a museum or something, there's a lot of paintings that you'll see where people will just be like, "That's just a splatter on the
Right.
wall. I don't see anything creative about that." And you have other people look at it and be like, "Oh my God, this is the best painting I've ever seen." And other people look at it and say like, "I see a person in this painting." It's all in the eyes of the beholder. Some people will see something as one thing while other people see it as another.
I think that the most creative source that I've ever seen has to be this TV show, South Park.
South Park is, yeah.
They have so many different
They're
takes
very
on
creative.
political issues and things that are going on in society and internationally that I don't think I would have ever been able to think of them on my own. They really know how to be.
They really think outside the box.
There's also a point where people think things are less creative because they've been seen